After decades in medicine, I've often heard my patients tell me something like this. Doctor, I eat eggs every day. Everyone says eggs are the perfect protein. So why do I still feel weaker? Like my muscles are shrinking? Maybe you've heard the same thing. For years, eggs have been praised as a golden food, the simplest way to get protein. And yes, eggs are nutritious. I won't deny that. But here's the truth that many older adults don't realize. According to the USDA, eggs don't even make the top 10 list of the richest protein sources. I want you to pause for a moment and imagine this. You're over 60. Every morning you fry 2 eggs, sit by the window, sip your coffee. You think you're doing something good for your health, fueling your body, keeping yourself strong. But then, a few years pass, your steps grow slower. Standing up from a chair feels harder. Your arms don't feel as steady. And sometimes, even carrying a grocery bag leaves you exhausted. Have you ever felt that way? If you have, you're not alone. Nearly half of adults over 65 experience something called sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle as we age. And eggs, though healthy, simply aren't enough to stop it. In fact, if you rely too heavily on them, you may even raise your cholesterol and put extra strain on your heart. I think of Walter, one of my 76-year-old patients. He'd been a park ranger his whole life, strong as an old pine tree in the Montana mountains. But in retirement, after hearing, "Eat more eggs to stay strong," he did exactly that. A few years later, he found his legs shaky. Even climbing the stairs at home became a struggle. With a sad smile, he told me, "Doc, I did everything they said, but I'm still getting weaker." And when I looked closely at his diet, the answer was clear. Eggs were not the ultimate solution for aging muscles. Nutrition science doesn't stand still. New studies show that there are other foods, cheaper, safer, and far richer in protein, that do a much better job at protecting muscles, supporting the heart, and even slowing down the aging process. I want you to picture this. If there was a simple way, just by swapping a few foods on your plate each day, you could keep the strength to lift your grandchild, drive yourself to see friends, or walk with confidence without fear of falling, would you be open to trying it? This isn't an empty promise. I've seen it with my own patients. Within just a few weeks of adding different high-protein foods to their meals, some regained their energy, their strength, even their independence. One woman went back to gardening, another picked up hiking again, one man even returned to teaching dance classes at his local community center. Watching those changes, I realized health after 60 isn't about giving up. It's about choosing wisely. Do you remember the last time you felt truly strong? Maybe it was holding your first grandchild in your arms, or walking down a trail, hearing the crunch of leaves beneath your feet. A healthy body isn't just about blood test numbers. It's about the quality of each day you get to live. That's why I want to sit here, in front of this camera, and talk to you. Not as a lecture, but as one older friend speaking to another. Because if you're watching this, I know you're searching for the same thing. A way to keep your strength, your independence, and your joy in life. Today, I'm going to share with you 5 foods that go far beyond eggs when it comes to nourishing your muscles and protecting your health. Some are probably already in your kitchen. And one of them is so unique, NASA is actually studying it as a food for astronauts in space. Sounds futuristic, but it's very real. Before we dive into those foods, let me leave you with this question. How do you want to see yourself at 70? Do you picture yourself sitting by the window, hands trembling, watching the world pass by? Or do you see yourself walking steady and strong, tending your garden, driving to meet friends, smiling because you're still full of energy and life? The answer lies in the choices you make at the table every single day. And believe me, that choice is completely in your hands. Do you remember Walter, the 76-year-old park ranger I mentioned earlier? He believed that eating eggs every day would keep him strong, but the truth was his muscles kept shrinking. Everything changed when he tried something far simpler, just a handful of pumpkin seeds a day. Pumpkin seeds, tiny as they are, contain over 30 grams of protein per 100 grams, more than double what you get from eggs. They're also rich in magnesium, zinc, and antioxidants. And the beauty of pumpkin seeds is They're so easy to enjoy. Walter sprinkled them over his morning yogurt, sometimes snacked on them straight from the bag. Within weeks, his legs felt lighter, he slept deeper, and even his cholesterol dropped. I'll never forget the smile on his face when he told me, "Doc, I'm back in my garden hiking again. I feel like I've gotten 10 years younger." Do you see yourself in Walter's story? One small change, yet it opened up a whole new life for him. Then there's Harold, 81 years old, a piano teacher. He once told me standing too long at the piano left his back and legs ready to give out. Tests showed his muscles and bones had weakened. Harold had avoided dairy for years, thinking it would upset his stomach. But then he tried Parmesan cheese, an aged cheese naturally low in lactose, surprisingly easy to digest. He began sprinkling just a little Parmesan over his eggs, his vegetables, even into his evening soup. Within weeks, Harold found himself standing steadier, his fingers more nimble on the keys. He looked at me and said with a grin, "Doctor, I think this cheese gave me back a piece of my youth." See, it doesn't always take something complicated. Sometimes it's the simplest foods that bring us back to life. And then I think of Martha, 72 years old, a strong woman who loved tending her garden. But her body weakened, and she suffered a mild stroke. She told me, "I thought eggs would be enough to keep me strong. But then I couldn't even lift a flower pot." We shifted her diet to include something that sounded unusual at first: tempeh. Fermented soybeans, firm and nutty, a complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids. At first she hesitated, but once she learned to saute it with vegetables or roast it with spices, she began to enjoy it. 8 weeks later, Martha proudly showed me her hands, her arms, her legs, strong again, steady again. I share these stories because strength in old age doesn't come from miracles. It comes from small, everyday choices. Another choice, one you know well: chicken breast. Many people think of chicken as ordinary, nothing special. But the truth is, 100 grams of lean chicken breast holds over 30 grams of high-quality, easy-to-digest protein with all the amino acids your muscles need. I once encouraged Gloria, a 79-year-old patient, to add chicken breast regularly to her meals. Before that, she was too weak to go shopping alone, even collapsed once on a short flight of stairs. 6 weeks later, after steady meals of chicken and some light exercises, she stood tall in front of me, telling me about a community meeting where she shared her story. Her words were powerful. We can still be strong if we're willing to change. And now let's talk about something you may never have thought of: spirulina. This deep green algae, just a fine powder, contains nearly 70% protein by weight. That's 9 to 10 times more protein than eggs. It's so nutrient-dense that NASA is studying it as a primary food source for astronauts. I'll tell you about Leonard, 74 years old, a retired science teacher who loved astronomy. He used to hold his telescope, but his hands shook from muscle loss. When he added just 1 teaspoon of spirulina into his morning smoothies, within weeks his strength improved. Soon he was back under the night sky with his students, voice full of energy, pointing out the stars. Do you see the pattern? It is never too late to reclaim your strength. Beyond these 5 foods, I also want to remind you of a few other powerful allies for healthy aging. A cup of Greek yogurt in the morning, packed with protein, gentle on digestion, especially for those sensitive to dairy. A serving of salmon or mackerel once or twice a week, not just for muscle, but for omega-3s that sharpen memory and protect the heart. In a warm bowl of lentil stew, protein and fiber together, supporting blood sugar balance and gut health. I want you to imagine this. Every meal on your table is not just food, it's a brick, building the foundation of your strength. Every spoonful of yogurt, every handful of pumpkin seeds, every bite of tempeh or chicken breast is telling your body, be stronger today, live one more day with freedom and energy. So what will you choose for yourself? The same old meals that slowly let your body weaken? Or small, simple changes that can open the door to a healthier, freer, more joyful life in your later years? You know, after more than 35 years as a doctor, I've watched thousands of patients enter their 60s, 70s, even their 80s. And there's one thing I always remind them: aging is not the end. It's a new chapter, one where you still have the power to choose how you want to live. Yes, muscles may weaken, memory may slow, but that doesn't mean we simply give up. Instead, with each meal, we have a choice. A handful of pumpkin seeds, a piece of chicken breast, a warm bowl of lentils, even a spoonful of spirulina. These small choices tell your body, stay strong, stay alive, stay joyful. I'll never forget what Martha, my gardening patient, told me after recovering from her mild stroke. When her hands grew strong again, she looked at me and said, "Doctor, I'm not afraid of aging anymore. I feel like I still have so many springs left to plant and to harvest." And maybe that's the message I want to leave with you today. Aging is not about loss. It's about opportunity, a chance to slow down, to choose more wisely, to live with more intention. Every plate of food you put on your table is another way of writing a new page of your youth. I want you to ask yourself, have I given my body something today that makes it stronger? Tomorrow, will I sit back and watch my muscles fade, or will I stand up and begin with one small change? You can start tonight. A piece of salmon or just a cup of Greek yogurt. Tomorrow, sprinkle a handful of pumpkin seeds into your salad. Step by step, choice by choice, these little habits will build on each other until one day you'll be surprised. You're walking farther, sleeping better, smiling brighter in the mirror. And I say this not just as a doctor, but as someone in my 60s myself. I know what it feels like when mornings are slow, when bones creak, when memory slips. But I also know the joy of regaining strength through the simplest of choices. And I believe you can feel that joy too. So if today's message spoke to you, I'd love for you to leave me a comment. Have you tried any of these foods yet? How has your body responded when you added more protein to your meals? Please share your story, because your story might inspire someone else, just like Walter, Harold, or Martha inspired us. And don't forget, hit like and subscribe, not just to support this channel, but so you never miss the next little secret that can help you turn aging into a journey full of strength and vitality. Finally, I want you to remember this. You are not growing old. You are entering a new season of life. And in this season, every smart choice you make can give you more years filled with energy, freedom, and joy. So tell me, what will you choose for your next meal?